Good Shabbos. Good morning, everybody. Shabbos lecha, very exciting parsha. I said Yoni's bar mitzvah parsha 14 years ago. So pretty exciting. Parsha lecha rolls around. Really a lot to talk about. There's a huge contrast between last week's parsha, this week's parsha. So this past Matzah Shabbos, Rabbi Zev Leff from Moshe Matisyahu spoke in our shul. We have a Turn Back the Clock initiative. A friend of mine passed away 4 years ago. When they turned the clock back in the winter, we have an extra hour, so we learn for an hour. We learn for an hour, which is a very good thing. We have a special speaker. Rabbi Leff spoke this past week, who talked about the difference between Noach and Avraham. There's a Sforno, and Pritzadik also talks about that Noach just wasn't some dude who was just building a boat. He also really was there to help people do tshuva and waited to the last minute, hoping people would get better. So then what's the difference between Avram and Noach? When Avram also spoke to the people, Noach was trying to get people to do tshuva, and Rabbi Leff mentioned that there's a Sforno that he talks about that there's a little difference between Abraham and Noach. When Noach taught, spoke to people and to be good, their actions, and Avram went a lot deeper, went a lot further, and spoke to their core person, that the Yiras Shamayim. That's the point of this. Not just to point out people's shortcomings and the symptoms of people, but getting to the root issues and the root cause. Noach, people doing bad actions, Gezel, but really to kind of look beyond the surface. He brings the famous story, true or not true, whether it's the Rambam, whether it's Shneipshitz, where they say, it's nature versus nurture. We can teach someone to do something, we can nurture, and we'll train these cats. And they train the cats to serve food. And the Rambam, or Shneipshitz, opens up the box, and a mouse comes out, and all the cats, from being trained how to act like men and waiters, they start chasing the mouse. And the point is as much as you could train an animal how to do something, their core is an animal. And Noach was just trying to look at people's actions, stealing, gezel, geros, all those things. And Avram was really looking at to be Yarei Hashem, to really follow Hashem. And that's the core of somebody. It's got to get to the core of the person, not to deal with just the outer symptoms. In this parsha, the Pri Tzaddik has an interesting line that you got to think about it a second. Is that Avram was a man of Chesed, and Pri Tzaddik says, "Amakash Baruch Hu lech lecha meito, hispashtos shebein haumos." You are the one to go out, meito, from you, go out and spread Hashem between the nations. And the question is, what's Chesed have to do with spreading Hashem to the nations? Every person who's a Baal Chesed becomes the leader? Not necessarily. Usually it's the opposite. Usually it's not the biggest Baal Chesed to do. It's usually sometimes the most selfish person becomes the leader. The strongest person becomes the leader. So what's the purpose? Why was Avram chosen? Hashem said, this man is a Baal Chesed. He's going to spread the word of Hashem. So perhaps we have to kind of understand what is Chesed, what it means. And at the end of the day, Chesed at that time wasn't just inviting someone for Shabbos or helping someone fix the flat tire. The purpose was to get someone to be involved in Hashem, to know that there's a creator. When Avram spread the word of Hashem, he was the first one. And to get people to either listen to him or to get people to understand what it means to be a Jew and to follow Hashem was to be a Baal Chesed. So could you imagine? Someone says, believe in God. Well, what's their motive? Do they want something in return? The guy is so nice to me. Maybe he wants a favor back. What's the reason why he's so nice? Look at Abraham. He opens up shop in the desert, water, food. Why do you do this? And if you look at this, the purpose is not for anything in return. He just wanted people to thank Hashem, daven to Hashem, bench, and that showed Yiras Shamayim, to get people to daven to Hashem and to listen to Hashem. because there's no alternative motive. When you're in the desert and you have no food and water, and someone's giving you the thing that he could really keep for himself, you're in the desert, the last thing you want to do is give out your stuff. And when Abraham, lahafoch, he's the one who sets up shop in the desert, and he's the one to give things out. And when people saw this message of Abraham, immediately thought of them to thank Hashem and to follow God, to believe that there's Hashem in the world. Because only someone who really truly believes there's God in the world is going to do something that's totally altruistic. There's nothing these people can give back to Abraham. He's giving them everything he has, water and food. There's nothing he can actually want in return. So this act of chesed is a little bit more than just inviting someone for Shabbos, giving someone some sugar. This shows the true message. And when you see someone, and when they saw Abraham giving everything he had in the desert, things for them to have for free, and all he wanted, not money, not a car, not animals, just thank God, this was a message that was appropriate for the time. And this got people to follow Hashem. And unfortunately, all the people that he was Megayer left, didn't stick with them. But again, for other reasons, whatever the reason was, maybe it was too much love, too much chesed, whatever the reason was. But this is the appropriate message. And perhaps we kind of look at this chesed and not just think of quid pro quo, I'm doing something for somebody else, but to think if I do a chesed for somebody, that will get that person to look at Jews in a different way. So the famous story going around this week, true or not, of guys at the gas station, and he says to the gas guy, attendant says to this firm guy, you know what, the guy before you also had a long covering and curls. He didn't pay his bill. So the Jewish guy's like, oh my gosh, terrible Hashem. You know what? I'll give you that another $50. $50? I'll pay. Okay. The guy goes home. Oh my gosh, it's terrible. A Jewish guy stole from the gas attendant. What a terrible thing. And it turns out that this guy really did this on purpose. He knew the Jews would pay for each other. So anytime this gas station guy saw a Jewish person behind the wheel, he made up this story. And that's true or not. Maybe it is true. It's on LinkedIn. It's on Torah Anytime. True or not true. But the purpose is exactly that. The purpose is they know the Jewish people were supposed to be here in the world to do chesed, not just to do favors for people so they'll do favors back for us, but to go beyond that. When you do a favor for someone and the guy knows you're a frum Torah Jew, that says, you know what, these Jews, they're doing things not for their own benefit, not for their own pleasure. They're doing things to really spread the word of Hashem. And that's kind of what our role is, whether we're in our shul and whether we meet someone for the first time or even non-Jews. Most of us don't work for Jewish companies, and on a daily basis, we're always in contact with people that don't know much about Jews. This coming up week, I'm going to be in South Carolina and Utah. These people never saw a Yagad yarmulke before, and I'm going to wear one, despite the fear that Kyrie is unfortunately bringing, this anti-Semitism that another reason Brooklyn Nets are suffering. But this is a moment to get back, a moment to show people Jews aren't just here. Conspiracy theories. Jews aren't here to make money. Jews are really here to bring a Kiddush Hashem and to bring good into the world. Have a good Shabbos.